There's a quiet myth that follows retirement like a shadow, especially if you enjoy being alone. That choosing solitude means something went wrong, that if you're not constantly surrounded by people, you must be lonely, sad, or disconnected from life. But the truth is far more interesting and far more powerful, because many retired people who prefer their own company aren't withdrawing from life, they're finally living it on their own terms. When you listen closely to their stories, a different picture emerges, one shaped by clarity, depth, and a kind of calm confidence that only comes with time. These are people who've spent decades meeting expectations, showing up for others, and following schedules that weren't always their own. And now, with that chapter closed, they've discovered something rare, the strength to be content without noise. One of the first qualities you notice is emotional self-sufficiency. Retired people who enjoy being alone don't rely on constant interaction to feel stable or validated. They've learned how to sit with their thoughts without panicking. They don't need distraction to escape themselves. That doesn't mean they reject connection. It means they're not dependent on it. Their emotional world is internally anchored, not externally borrowed. Another quality is deep self-awareness. Solitude has a way of sharpening perception. When you spend time alone, patterns become clearer. You notice what drains you and what restores you. Many retirees who prefer solitude talk about finally understanding themselves, their limits, their preferences, their rhythms. They stop forcing personalities that don't fit. They stop apologizing for needing space. And that honesty becomes a quiet form of wisdom.
There's also an uncommon sense of peace with time. People who like being alone in retirement tend to move at their own pace without guilt. They don't rush in the mornings. They don't fill calendars just to feel busy. They understand that time is no longer something to conquer, but something to inhabit. This relationship with time brings patience, not just with life, but with themselves. Another powerful quality is selective social energy. These individuals don't isolate out of fear, they choose carefully. When they connect, it's intentional. Conversations are deeper, relationships are fewer but more meaningful. They've learned that quality matters more than quantity, and they no longer confuse social noise with genuine connection. You'll also notice a strong sense of personal boundaries. Retirement gives space to redefine them, and people who enjoy solitude tend to guard their energy wisely. They say no without over-explaining. They don't feel obligated to attend every gathering or answer every call. This isn't selfishness, it's self-respect shaped by experience. Then there's independence of thought. When you're comfortable alone, you stop outsourcing your opinions. Retired individuals who value solitude think for themselves. They reflect before reacting. They're less influenced by trends, pressure, or other people's expectations. This makes their perspective grounded and often surprisingly insightful. Another quality that stands out is creativity in small things. Solitude creates room for hobbies, reflection, and curiosity. Whether it's reading, gardening, walking, or simply thinking, many retirees who enjoy being alone develop rich inner lives. They don't need constant stimulation because they've learned how to create meaning quietly. There's also resilience. Being alone teaches problem solving. It builds confidence in one's ability to handle life as it comes. Retired people who prefer solitude often trust themselves deeply. They know they've survived change before. Careers ending, identities shifting, relationships evolving. And that trust makes them emotionally strong. And perhaps most overlooked of all is contentment without performance. These individuals don't feel the need to appear busy, social, or impressive. They're no longer living for approval. They've learned that peace doesn't require an audience. This is just the beginning of what makes retired people who enjoy being alone so remarkable. Another defining quality is their ability to find meaning without external validation.
Retired people who enjoy being alone don't measure their days by how useful they appear to others. They're no longer chasing praise, recognition, or applause. Instead, meaning comes from small personal satisfactions: finishing a book, tending a plant, taking a long walk, or simply thinking deeply about life. This inner sense of fulfillment is something many people never develop because they're too busy seeking approval from the outside world. There's also a remarkable level of emotional regulation. Solitude teaches patience. When you live comfortably alone, you become better at sitting with uncomfortable emotions without reacting impulsively. Retired individuals who prefer solitude often respond to stress more calmly because they've learned not every feeling requires immediate action. They allow emotions to pass rather than letting them control their behavior. Another quality is gratitude for simplicity. While others may fear quiet lives, these retirees see beauty in the ordinary: a peaceful morning, a familiar routine, a home that feels safe and personal. They've learned that happiness doesn't always arrive in dramatic moments. Sometimes it's hidden in repetition, silence, and predictability. That appreciation brings a sense of grounded joy. They also tend to have stronger intuition. Spending time alone sharpens internal signals. Many retirees who enjoy solitude trust their gut more than opinions from others. They listen closely to themselves and make decisions that align with their values rather than social pressure. This intuition isn't random. It's the result of decades of reflection and lived experience. Another powerful trait is adaptability. Retirement itself is a massive life shift, and those who enjoy being alone often handle this transition with surprising grace. They're comfortable redefining themselves beyond titles or roles. They understand that identity can evolve, and they don't cling desperately to the past. That flexibility allows them to navigate aging with dignity rather than fear. There's also a quiet confidence that comes from self-trust. These individuals know they can handle their own company. They don't panic on empty days or quiet evenings. That confidence radiates outward and often makes them unexpectedly magnetic when they do engage with others. People sense when someone is at ease with themselves. Many of them also possess a heightened sense of empathy. Solitude doesn't harden them, it deepens them. Time alone often leads to reflection on life's struggles, losses, and joys. This reflection builds compassion. Retired people who like being alone often listen more attentively and judge less harshly because they've spent time understanding their own complexities.
Another quality is intentional living. Their days aren't accidental. Even simple routines are chosen deliberately. They decide how they want to spend their energy instead of letting circumstances dictate it. This intentionality gives life a quiet structure that feels stable rather than restrictive. They also tend to be less reactive to social drama. When you don't depend heavily on social circles for fulfillment, gossip and conflict lose their grip. Retired individuals who enjoy solitude often step away from unnecessary tension with ease. They've learned what deserves attention and what doesn't. And finally, there's acceptance. Acceptance of aging, acceptance of change, acceptance of themselves. These individuals aren't constantly fighting reality. They're not trying to prove youth, relevance, or productivity. They've made peace with who they are and where they are in life, and that peace becomes their greatest strength. These qualities don't appear overnight. They're earned through years of experience, reflection, and quiet courage. And while solitude isn't for everyone, those who embrace it in retirement often discover a depth of life that few people ever reach. One of the most underrated qualities is their deep sense of independence. Retired people who enjoy being alone don't rely heavily on others to fill emotional gaps or solve everyday problems. This doesn't mean they reject help when it's needed. It means they trust themselves first. They've learned how to manage their time, emotions, and responsibilities without constant reassurance. That independence brings a quiet pride and a strong sense of personal agency. They also tend to have a healthier relationship with boredom. Instead of fearing empty moments, they see them as space to think, to rest, to observe. Boredom becomes a doorway rather than a threat. Many retirees who enjoy solitude discover that creativity often appears in these quiet gaps. Ideas surface, memories resurface, insight grows. What others call boredom, they experience as a mental breathing room. Another quality is emotional honesty. When you spend time alone, there's nowhere to hide from yourself. Retired individuals who prefer solitude often develop a truthful relationship with their own thoughts and feelings. They don't sugarcoat their regrets, nor do they dwell endlessly on them. They acknowledge what was, learn from it, and move forward with realism rather than denial. There's also a strong sense of self-respect. These individuals don't stay in draining situations just to avoid being alone. They've learned that peace is more valuable than forced company. This boundary setting protects their energy and reinforces their self-worth. It's a form of quiet self-love that doesn't need explanation. They're often excellent observers of life. Solitude sharpens awareness. Retired people who enjoy being alone notice details others miss, changes in seasons, subtle shifts in mood, patterns in behavior. This observational nature gives them wisdom that feels grounded rather than theoretical. They've watched life closely, not rushed past it. Another beautiful quality is contentment without excess. Many of them don't need constant stimulation, new possessions, or endless plans to feel fulfilled. They've simplified their needs and found richness in less. This contentment often leads to lower stress and a greater sense of inner stability. They also develop resilience. Being alone doesn't shield them from hardship. It teaches them how to face it directly. Loss, illness, and uncertainty still arrive, but these individuals have learned how to sit with difficulty without collapsing. That resilience is quiet, steady, and deeply earned.
There is a certain authenticity that comes with this lifestyle. Retired people who enjoy solitude are less likely to perform for others. They don't shape their personalities to fit expectations. What you see is what you get. This authenticity makes their presence refreshing and genuine when they do engage socially. They also tend to have a clearer sense of priorities. Without constant noise and distraction, it becomes easier to recognize what truly matters. Time, health, peace, and meaningful moments rise to the top. Trivial concerns fade into the background. This clarity brings a calm confidence in daily decision-making. Perhaps the most powerful quality of all is inner peace, not the kind that comes from having a perfect life, but the kind that comes from acceptance of solitude, acceptance of imperfection, acceptance of change. Retired people who enjoy being alone aren't running from life, they're resting within it. They've learned that being alone doesn't mean being empty, it means being complete without needing to prove it. And in a world that constantly pushes noise, urgency, and connection at all costs, that ability becomes a rare and remarkable strength. For many, solitude in retirement isn't a withdrawal from life. It's a deeper engagement with it, on their own terms, at their own pace, with clarity, dignity, and quiet joy.
Living alone in retirement isn't about isolation or pushing the world away. It's about choosing peace over noise, depth over distraction, and authenticity over expectation. The people who thrive in this season aren't missing out on life. They've simply learned how to live it from the inside out. If you recognize yourself in these qualities, know that there's nothing wrong with you. Liking your own company is not a weakness. It's a sign of self-awareness, resilience, and emotional maturity. And if you're still learning how to be comfortable alone, that's okay too. These qualities are built over time through patience and experience. Retirement offers a rare gift, the freedom to live at your own pace. Whether that means quiet mornings, thoughtful routines, or meaningful solitude, the beauty is that it's yours to shape. And sometimes the most fulfilling life is the one lived calmly, intentionally, and on your own terms.